Hello and welcome to our webinar today on 5 ways to generate new consulting opportunities right now. I'm Sophie Lewis, Marketing Executive at Equitech, based in our London office, and our presenters for today are Jason Parks and Pat Webb, who are based in North America. They're going to be presenting for about 20 minutes and then I'll be putting some questions to them. Please use the control panel to the right-hand side of the screen. You find the question box towards the bottom if you'd have any questions. So over to you two now.
Great. Thanks so much, Sophie. All right. So thanks, everybody, for joining today. And if there are one key message that you take away from today's session, it's that sustained growth in a consulting firm is the result of small, continual improvements made in the sales and marketing process. All right. So some of you may be familiar with the Equitech 8 levers of equity value. This model simulates the way in which a buyer would conduct due diligence on a firm that they were considering for acquisition. And this slide shows a typical radar chart, which is one output from our strategic review and equity growth accelerator workshops. The chart illustrates how well this example firm here is performing against those 8 levers in order to understand what priorities need to be taken to increase the equity value of a firm. Now, the shape of this example is very typical, actually, in that the sales and marketing levers, it's most often the first or second most poorly performing lever for the firms that we talk to, and that's why we want to focus today's session on generating sales opportunities. All right, so during today's webinar, here's what we're going to cover. Harvesting more revenue from existing clients, getting clarity on targeting new prospects, using secondary and primary research to fuel client discussions that open new opportunities, creating marketing content aligned with the buyer's journey to generate demand, and building momentum with structured sales campaigns. After that, we'll wrap up with the key takeaways from today. It should take about 20 minutes, leaving us 10 minutes where we'll get the chance to answer any questions that are coming up for you.
Awesome. And Jason, you mentioned on the previous slide that the sales and marketing process is typically the first or second most poorly performing of the 8 levers of equity value. Could you say a little more, first off, about how a buyer would view a poor sales and marketing process?
Yeah, Pat. A buyer would view a business with underperforming sales and marketing process as, one with a lot of risk in it, and that would likely impact the possibility of an offer or any offer that was made. And that's another reason why this is so important. And we want to give you some tips today on how to strengthen this part of the business. It's really vital. So, let's have a look at harvesting more revenue from existing clients. This 2x2 here simply shows 4 strategies a firm can use to grow. And, within the squares themselves, you'll see the proportion of effort that we recommend firms invest in each to build a healthy pipeline with better business. Now, I got to say the figures here are indicative, so please don't give them any more precision than they deserve. But let me start in the bottom left-hand quadrant with selling existing services to existing clients. The easiest way to grow is to sell more of what you already do to people you already know. This is where you need to be farming to harvesting more revenue. The resources you need to invest here are those of your account managers, and above those, the senior leadership team. Similarly, in the quadrant in the top left-hand corner, the same group of people, your account managers, and again, the senior members of the management team, will be responsible for selling new services to your existing clients. Now, much of your marketing budget will actually be deployed in the bottom right-hand quadrant, trying to capture new clients and deliver your proven current services to them. Note here, remember this is the box where you'll really be hunting as opposed to farming. We would encourage you to limit your activity in the top right-hand quadrant, which is selling new services to people you don't know. Obviously, if you're a startup, you may be doing a lot of work in this quadrant, or if you're testing new IP, this is where that would happen. It's not impossible to operate in this quadrant, but it is pretty difficult. And the point here is you don't want to end up here by accident, right? So, let's now take a deeper dive into this bottom left-hand quadrant, this selling services we already have to clients we already know. And there are two steps that we recommend to take a deeper dive here. And the first is to create a service client matrix to identify available white space within the account base. And the second step is to create a sales opportunity plan that will allow us to prioritize the clients we believe represent the best revenue growth and plan some outreach against those. All right, a lot of colors in this slide. This is, on the service client matrix, you'll see a list of clients across the top with service lines down the left-hand side. From your invoicing file, we'd recommend that you populate a matrix like this in order to easily identify a white space. This example really shows a heat map, if you will. The white space represents opportunities within your current client base to sell more of your existing services. The red boxes are opportunities as well. They simply reflect a low overall penetration or revenue threshold.
Right. So if we were to look at client A, it looks as though that this is a mature relationship and there's an opportunity to sell service line 4, which is quite different from the situation with client D, where there's been much less revenue generated in the past. So they're different kinds of accounts. So how should that be handled?
Right. What's nice about looking at your clients this way is it actually helps to classify your client base, Pat. And in this example, client A is clearly a strategic account, right? And one where you'd invest in more business development effort. We've got good revenue, hopefully good profitability, and we've sold a lot of our service line to them. Whereas client D, we really need to do some due diligence there. What's the story? What's holding us back in this account? It might be a relationship problem. It might be a resourcing problem or issue. Whatever the findings, it's simply time to make a decision on whether client D is a good use of our business development investment, or if it's simply going to always be a transactional account. I'd say the other point to note here is about service line 4. There's a lot of white space in that lower row. And I think, one action item we could take out of this is we need to ensure that the account teams and the delivery teams are fully aware of service line 4 and, that they're equipped to drive more revenue, right?
So the white space exercise identifies opportunities both from a service line point of view and from an account point of view. So once we've identified these opportunities to drive revenue, now what? Right.
So we need a plan, right? And this slide here that I just switched to, this is a simple sales opportunity plan template. And the concept behind it is to provide two things. First, at the firm level, this plan is an input to the firm's discounted pipeline. And the first 4 columns capture that: opportunity, customer, potential value, likelihood of winning. The last 3 columns are about moving prospects through the pipeline. Who's going to do what and by when, right? We know we would prioritize client A right now. And depending on our due diligence, we may not spend any time on client D. So using client A as an exemplar of good practice, we need to record the opportunity to keep a line of sight during our sales campaigns, and we need to be crystal clear on who is responsible. and what they need to make the sales pursuit successful.
And as you said earlier on, Jason, this is a very simple opportunity plan. Lots of listeners are going to have CRM systems or professional services automation, which is going to track sales opportunities. So the key message is that regardless of whether you manage this with a spreadsheet or much more sophisticated software, in terms of harvesting more revenue from existing clients, having visibility of white space and a plan to harvest that opportunity, well, that's what's paramount.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's correct. And to your earlier point, a buyer would expect to see not only transparency into the pipeline, but strong evidence that it's being managed effectively. And the point is, what actions are the account team going to take that make the management team actually confident that we're going to capture that revenue, and what resources do they need? So, while we're talking about strategic and transactional accounts, this is a good segue into another common issue that our clients grapple with, and that is with their margins within their existing client base. They tend to decrease over time, particularly with implementation work. Sometimes it's a result of concessions that are made to ensure that we stick around for the long haul. But I guess what I'm saying is, in addition to harvesting existing client revenue work, there needs to be a plan to capture some new clients. So, let's talk about that now. All right, so, what's really exciting about capturing new clients, aside from the additional revenue, is that new relationships allow us to move up the value chain, right? This allows us to, they're fertile grounds that allow us to sell higher value work for which we can charge more. I'm talking again about better business, not just more business. With new clients, we aren't burdened by being pigeonholed in the way that we sometimes are with the longer term clients and relationships. Higher value work is incredibly important because it impacts profitability, the brand perception, and especially equity value of the firm. So here are a couple steps that we recommend that you would take. Number one is get crystal clear on what your ideal client looks like. And number two, using that definition, how do we build a platform, an outbound sales prospect list to maximize our time and investments?
Now, the criteria about what would make an ideal client is going to be dependent on a myriad of factors within the firm. What tips would you give to focus the business development efforts on where the firm has the right to win?
Right. So, we would recommend that you create your own list of 5 criteria for your target clients. And the best place to start is by examining your current clients that are delivering the highest in revenue and profits right now. Have a look, what are the characteristics of these clients that you'd want replicated across your your future client base. Might be things like the buyer level, right? We only want to sell the C-suite at the director level or so forth. Might be geography based. Are they local, or are we always traveling to do the work? How big do they need to be? How much wallet is available? Is there a recurring revenue opportunity? Or are they always going to be a one and done? That may be critical. How can your proposition add the most value? And how does your mission and vision match with these client needs? And just as important, it's okay to talk about what we don't want, right? So what client traits would we not like to see again in future clients? Every firm has different priorities in their go-to-market strategy, but the key message is you need to have clarity on the characteristics of an ideal client. Otherwise we can diffuse or dilute our efforts. So now that we've talked about the criteria, our next step from here is to actually build a list.
Right. Now, this is a this is a busy slide, so let's just walk through this. The steps in the process to build a prospect list. You've got the newly identified clients. So we're going to select who we're going after, then we're going to plan, build, develop the message, and execute across the top. So let me give you some tips around here in terms of building prospect lists. We strongly recommend that you build your lists. You don't buy them. So you build them from the bottom up. You identify the clients that you're interested in. You build them bottom up using LinkedIn. Another tip is don't collect data you're not going to use. All you really need is an individual's job title, the company they work for, and email address. So don't make that too complicated. Just as a sort of, an idea of guideline of how long it takes, in our firm, our analysts, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes per contact. So working full-time, one person can get through 400 companies in 4 weeks. And if we're adding 400 companies every month, we're building and building and building bigger and bigger prospect lists. Then there needs to be a step just to check the quality of that list. So once we've done that, we now need we know who we're targeting. We need to develop the messages that a prospect's going to find valuable. So let me give you some tips about how to do that. Now, using primary and secondary research helps you fuel discussions that open up new opportunities. Now, it may not feel intuitive, but secondary research comes before primary research. So secondary research is simply desk research, where we recommend that you look at the big thought leaders in your field. The big consulting firms spend millions of dollars doing their own large-scale primary research on what the big trends and hot topics are. Closer to home, you want to mix in the perspective from your own delivery teams about the trends and issues that they see emerging on the ground with your clients, and pull those two together, boil that down, pull it together into a one-page summary of key issues, and use that secondary research as the basis of conducting your own primary research. By that we mean just going out and talking directly to about a dozen or so of your own clients to validate the priority in their firm of those big topics and hot trends, and find out how they're responding, how you can help them respond. Now, these primary research interviews are not sales calls. It's about getting clarity about your client's needs, which informs how you can respond to them. It allows you to have more strategic, higher value conversations with your clients, putting you in a different light. And although it's not designed as a sales tool for your existing clients, it invariably uncovers opportunities by increasing the client's awareness of all the ways your firm can bring value. So now that we've got clarity on what the hot issues are, what's keeping our clients awake at night, we can get to work on creating content.
Great, thanks, Pat. So, building on that, with those fantastic insights and that primary research, ultimately we have to get to a step where we create content to help support our clients throughout the buying journey. And understanding the buyer's journey not only improves our chances of closing the sale, but it gives us an advantage in attracting new business. And, really, if you look at this pyramid, the concepts are that the earlier a prospect is in the buying process, the less they know about their options and the further away they are from actually making a purchase, and vice versa. And we want to have compelling content ready for each stage of the buyer's journey so that we have the right message available at the right time. Just another note on, when we understand this journey, it really helps us determine what is needed to pull opportunities through the next stage of the sales funnel, right? We want to move clients towards a buy, right? And, lastly, it allows us to focus our content investment where we can expect to receive the highest ROI.
Right, and so what tips can you give about the types of content that have the highest ROI?
Downloadable educational content, Pat, will give you the highest ROI. And I mean, like short articles, explainer videos, infographics, you know, shameless plug, and indeed webinars like this one, right, are pretty good. You know, case studies are super important. They are really important for clients that you engage later on in the later stages of the buying process. So, you know, another tip here is to make sure that any content that you create, that you're able to slice and dice it and reuse it as many times as possible to maximize the investment there. So, you know, we've covered harvesting revenue from existing clients. We talked about creating characteristics for new clients. We touched on, you know, how to build a list, right, and creating content. And from here comes the hard part, which is actually, you know, maintaining momentum on execution.
Yeah, it is the hard part. So this is an example of a very simple spreadsheet which shows the timeline for 4 different outbound campaigns over the course of a quarter. And there's a couple of tips we'd offer you here. On the left-hand side, you'll see target list 1. So let's imagine from the previous steps that you've created a prospect list with 400 names on it. Don't blast 100 emails at a time. Use very small batches so that you can fine-tune your approach and message. And to that point, remember, there's no experienced marketeers. There's only experienced testers. So run A/B splits on these very small batches so that you can adjust accordingly. Another tip is about having clarity about whose job it is to run these campaigns, and particularly what happens with the leads. So there needs to be a clear triage process. The scheduling and assigning accountabilities for sales campaigns to ensure that you don't have a start-stop situation, which results in an uneven flow of leads and therefore an uneven flow of revenue. And a last tip here is that when you look at reviewing your sales campaigns, it needs to be part of a regular business cadence. A good rule of thumb is that the pipeline coverage should be 2x the firm's revenue target. So there needs to be a tremendous focus on whether opportunities are moving through the pipeline towards conversion. So Jason, the last part is one of the most important parts to ensure execution momentum. Can you talk about that? The sales plan's one side, there's the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we recommend that our client's regular sales meeting combines reporting of campaign progress and sales activities with a view of the discounted pipeline. And this slide here shows a simple example of a discounted pipeline, right? Here we can see, this is a great example. Here we can see that revenue falls away steeply in January, booked revenue. So really what it tells us is that the sales campaigns in the fourth quarter are critical, right? And then building on Pat's point regarding the 2x pipeline coverage, the leadership team needs this early visibility of any softening of the discounted pipeline and its impact on the annual budget. Forecasting accuracy is really crucial in order to fine-tune conversion ratios. Revisiting forecast accuracy over time is really good practice. We'd recommend that you do that. And while we're on the conversion metrics, just a little note here, there is some evidence we've seen recently that due to competition, bid-to-win ratios are trending down across the industry. So, you know, it's therefore very important to track these ratios and improve predictability in a competitive marketplace, as that's really important. Again, very important to a buyer. So, you know, visibility of the discounted pipeline needs to be reviewed in parallel with sales and marketing plans to get a bead on whether we have enough activity going on, the right activity, and whether there's more sales training required to keep building the pipeline. I think the key message here is really simple. It's to integrate campaign performance in our sales effort, performance of our sales efforts, with the pipeline reporting into a regular cadence to keep everybody, honest. So, we've covered quite a bit, and we're getting to the bottom. So let's summarize the 5 tips that we've covered today. Again, just to kind of repeat the bookend from the beginning, sustained growth in a consulting firm is the result of small continual improvements made in the sales and marketing process. And, we covered 5 of these steps in the webinar today. We talked about harvesting more revenue from existing clients, getting clarity on targeting new prospects, using secondary and primary research to fuel client discussions that open new opportunities. There's a personal favorite of mine and Pat. Creating marketing content that's aligned with the buyer's journey, right, to ensure that we have what we need to generate demand across the sales cycle, or the buying cycle, excuse me. And then finally, building momentum with structured sales campaigns. All right.
Thanks for that. We've got 4 minutes left, so I think we can fit in one question. So the first one we've had through is, we don't have a dedicated business development person. Should we go out and hire one of these so-called rainmakers?
Yeah, we would advise you to reconsider here. Hiring rainmakers rarely works out, right? It's also very expensive to bring in dedicated business development resource. Really practice. If we step back a little bit, practice leaders should be spending a majority of their time on business development, right? And with them having managed the quality of the delivery of existing projects, they're should be deeply immersed in understanding a client's problems and how your firm's solutions are aligned with that. So, in closing, I'd say, therefore, it's better to develop the sales capability within the firm with a view on the long term.
Okay, thanks for that.
Sophie, can I just build on Jason's point?
Yep.
Training for sales individuals inside an organization. Sales skills are not a common skill set in a consulting firm, and there's very good reasons for that. Consultants are domain experts. They're passionate about whatever it is, supply chains or strategy or IT issues, whatever it is they're passionate about, but it's seldom selling. And so it is important that everybody goes through sales training. We need to train everybody, but the emphasis of the training should be tailored to the roles of the individual. So the questioner was asking about, do you need full-time business development role? If an individual is going to be spending the majority of their time doing business development, they need to have the sales training to be able to underpin that. So I just wanted to build on Jason's point at the end there.
Okay, thanks for that, Pat. I think we're going to just run out of time, so I'll finish up there. If you posed a question and we haven't got to it, we will get back in touch with you one-to-one. I just want to quickly point out that if you're not already a member, then please do join our EquiTech Edge Club. We have expert guidance, our unique research, our publications. We also have a monthly newsletter. Also, our next webinar is going to be on a margin improvement, and on March the 27th. You will be sending an email out about that, and you can find the details to sign up on our website. I just want to say, obviously, you've got our contact details on the next slide if you've got any further questions. And thank you to Jason and Pat for the webinar, and thanks to everyone for dialing in today.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks.